These past 4 years have been the hardest of my life. I got sober, I went through a divorce, and I lost my daughter, Ashlynn. My name is Erin. I want to welcome you to Breathe Between Battles. This podcast is my story, but it's not just about me, it's about anyone who's walked through something that has nearly broke them and wondered if they'd ever feel whole again. Over time, I'll be sharing pieces of my journey, my battles with addiction, the grief of losing my daughter, the fight I've taken on in her name, and the resilience it takes to keep moving forward. But I'll also be sharing hope, strength, faith, and even a little humor along the way. I believe we heal when we share our stories. And even if one person hears this and feels less alone, then this podcast has already done its job. So here's just a quick overview of who I am and how I got here. 3 years ago, I took my last sip of alcohol. That one choice, choosing sobriety, changed everything for me. Around that same time, I went through divorce, and then just over a year ago, my world shattered when my daughter Ashlynn passed away. Part of Ashlynn's story, and mine, is tied to something bigger, much bigger. She started vaping the Juul at age 14 years old, just barely a freshman in high school, thinking it was harmless, but it wasn't. It led to seizures, to addiction, and eventually to tragedy. That's why today I'm part of a lawsuit against Big Tobacco, because I refuse to stay silent about the damage these companies are doing to our kids and our families. I'll share more about that in future episodes, but I mention it here because it's part of my fight and part of Ashlynn's legacy. Each of these battles has changed me. They've stripped me down to my core, forced me to face pain I never thought I could survive. And yet, somehow, I'm still here. Still breathing, and still believing there's purpose in sharing the truth about what we've been through. I named this podcast Breathe Between Battles because that's what I've learned to do. Life doesn't stop throwing battles at us, but if we can find in those moments to pause, to breathe, to find strength in the in-between, we can keep going. This space will be about sobriety, grief, healing, faith, motherhood, and rebuilding yourself when life doesn't go the way you planned. Sometimes it may be heavy, sometimes light, sometimes raw, sometimes hopeful, but always real. In upcoming episodes, I'll be sharing my full sobriety story, what it really looked like to go from teenage drinking to ICU, and how I found freedom 3 years ago. I'll also talk about my experience with grief, parenting through loss, and the fight against Big Tobacco. And I'll open up about what it's like to rebuild after divorce, while also learning to laugh again and live again. I'll also bring on guests, friends, experts, other people who have fought their own battles, and share their stories too. Because this isn't just my story, it's a community. And if you're listening right now, you're part of it. So thank you for being here for episode 1. If you're walking through something right now, I hope this podcast reminds you that you are not alone. Take a deep breath, friend. You've got this. Make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if this has touched you, share it with someone who might need it. Together we'll keep breathing between battles.